Hey y'all. So I'm in the Chicago airport right now. Um, Gonna get back to Chattanooga about 4 a.m. Um, so anyway, I won't be there today, which is a bummer. Here, I'm gonna move so this light's not so bad. Uh, so you should have just watched Act 5 of the play, so you can at least get the gist of how it wraps up. What I want to explain right now is what you guys are going to be writing about. As we, when I come back, we kind of get back into the swing of things. And so today, I'm just going to read you the essay prompt, explain it as best I can, and then the rest of class you guys will use to begin working on that. So here's what the prompt says: Shakespeare's Macbeth is a play full of meaningful contrasts or juxtapositions through which the play makes claims about life. Your assignment is to identify a meaningful contrast in the play and make a claim about the significance of that contrast as it relates to major themes of Macbeth, backing up that claim with direct textual evidence and thoughtful reasoning. So essentially, identify a contrast, show how that contrast is helping us see a claim that the play is making about life. Um, Here's some things that you could consider, right? Some contrasts that you could work with. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but it should at least give you a head start. And this wouldn't be bad to write down if you have pencil, paper, keyboard, whatever. You could contrast two characters, right? So you could contrast Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Those two characters and the contrast between them, through that, the play makes so many various claims about living. Macbeth versus Banquo, right? Two very different characters that you could contrast. Macbeth versus Macduff, King Macbeth versus King Duncan, Lady Macbeth versus Lady Macduff, right? Picking two characters that the play seems to be saying, like, hey, these two people are not the same in a variety of ways, and then saying, okay, based off of that, what claims is the play making about these or about living as we see in these two characters? You could also contrast characters within themselves, right? So you could contrast beginning Macbeth versus end Macbeth, right? So who is Macbeth at the beginning? Who is he at the end? By contrasting those two parts of him, what claim is the text making about how he got from A to B, right? And how we too could get from A to B. What about Lady Macbeth as the beginning versus Lady Macbeth at the end, right? Through showing the contrast of her character, the play is making all kinds of claims about guilt and about power and about love, right? And all kinds of different things. And we see that when we're able to contrast these characters or these characters within certain time frames. The other thing you could do is motifs, right? You could contrast. There's all kinds of stuff about light and darkness in this, and light being like daylight, not like goodness. They do pull on that metaphorically, right? So you could do something really cool there. But just like what happens in the day, what happens in the night? Okay, what is that saying about life? Blood versus water, false faces versus the real self, fate versus chance, all the inversions, right? Fair is foul and foul is fair, the hurly burly, as they say in the first act. Men versus women, right? You could pick some sort of motif, some sort of recurring image that we see and say, okay, by contrasting these things, what claim is the play making? And I'm just going to give you a quick example. Y'all can go back to that slide if you need to and finish writing after this video is over. Um, but let's say you were going to do Macbeth versus Lady Macbeth, and just for the record, this is not stealing like an idea. There's so many claims that the text is making by contrasting just these two characters. So when we think about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, I think about one of the things that the text seems to be talking about by contrasting these two characters is like two different ways of dealing with guilt. Now, that's not a claim, that's still a topic, right? That the play talks about guilt, and we see it in these two different characters. So your job would then be to say, okay, well, what claim is the text making about how to deal with guilt through these two characters, right? What is it saying about the way that we deal with our own sense of wrongdoing as we see it in Lady Macbeth and as we see it in Macbeth, right? And it's making a claim by showing that they're different, right? There's two different paths, there's two different ways, there's two different results of following those things. So it's making claims about guilt by showing these two different characters. Um, let's say that you were going to do something about Macbeth versus Banquo, right? The text is making claims about how we respond to the opportunity of power, right? It's making claims about the way with Macbeth and Macduff. It's making claims about the way that we relate to our family, right? I mean, there's so many different things. And each of these is not like, okay, there's one contrast, so therefore there's one claim the text is making. There's so many within each contrast, right? With Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, you could probably come up with 10 different claims the text is making about men and women, about power, about guilt, about forgiveness, about whatnot, right? And it's doing that by contrasting these claims. Contrasting these characters. Um, Day versus night, if you decided to do a motif, right? Okay, clearly when Shakespeare talks about day and night, more is going on than just that. So by contrasting what happens in the day and what happens in the night, what claim is Shakespeare making about goodness and evil, about guilt and wrongdoing, about life? All right. So here's your job for homework, right? For the rest of class and for homework. What you're going to do is, excuse this annoying typing noise. I'm just going to pull up Canvas. What you're going to do is there's a discussion prep question that you guys are going to fill out and submit. I'll just tell you, submit by class next Wednesday. And what that's going to have on it is it's going to have the thing that you're going to be contrasting, whether that's characters or characters at the beginning and end or motifs. It's going to have what claim you think the text is trying to make by highlighting these things, right? It doesn't have to be worded perfectly. Just say like, hey, it seems like the text is making a claim about the ways that we deal with guilt, right? You don't even have to say the claim. You can just say the broad topic, right? It seems like it's talking about this. And then I want you to find two pieces of direct textual evidence that somehow engage that claim, right? So if you're looking at Lady Macbeth versus Macbeth in regards to guilt, we'll just keep going with that example. Two different quotes where they are wrestling through, one of them at least is wrestling through how to handle this sense of wrongdoing. All right, all that'll be on Canvas. Work with a partner, work by yourself, right? Wrestle with it before you just say, I don't know. Go back and flip through the text, look at what you've highlighted, think about the big themes y'all have talked about with Miss Ellis, and I will see you Wednesday.